So this week I'm checking out a sequel to a game I did a few months back, Rad Racer 2. Well, that's a sequel. The original was just called Rad Racer, but maybe you know that already, you smart viewer. This one was actually a request that was easy enough to acquire, so this is for you, Dante Perry. Rad Racer 2 isn't much different than its predecessor. You're still aiming on driving across the country in a souped-up vehicle, trying to get to the ends of the races before your time runs out. All the while, traffic is aiming to obstruct your way, and you'll need to weave around them and avoid crashing into them, as it eats up way too much time if you do end up spinning out. And that's one difference between 1 and 2. When crashing, you don't gain hellacious air and flip over more times than a car in Smoking the Bandit recreation. Instead, you just spin around a few times. This is actually an advantage though, as since you don't have to wait for your car to lay on the ground, you spend much less time waiting for your car to reset. This helps crashes be a bit less of a time sink, but that's not saying that you're given more leeway. In fact, I think the game gives you less time per checkpoints, or laps as they're called in the game. At least, it feels this way. Maybe it's because it also feels like a car picks up speed much slower than from a complete stop. To combat this, though, you get a new technique called a turbo boost, which is featured everywhere from the back of the box to the manual. Square must have been really proud of this turbo option. The way it works is that from a stopped position, you hold the down arrow on the D-pad. You gotta give it a second to start, because it seems like nothing is happening at first. After about a second, you'll see the meter on the right start to build. Once it hits the top of the bar, hit the A button, and you'll go from 0 miles an hour to 255, which is maximum speed. There are pros and cons to this new feature. One of which is that it can only be used if you're already stopped, so it's great from the starting line or when you crash to get back into the race. The downside is, well, you're at a stopped position, and it takes about 5 seconds to completely rev up the turbo to be able to use it. You can't choose to fling forward at a lower speed by activating it at a lower point than fully maxed. And if you do hit A too soon, the meter resets. At this point, you have to weigh your options. Do you attempt to do the boost again, or cut your losses and just accelerate the normal way? Usually, you want the turbo, but there were a few times where I crashed in a sharp turn, used the boost, but flung myself off the road into a lamppost. Just something to keep in mind. I didn't mention that instead of 2 cars to choose from, in Rad Racer 2, you only get the 1. Not like it made much of a difference anyway. Maybe the developers realized a bunch of F1 cars on the open highway looked a bit strange. In this aspect though, the other cars on the road feel like they're a bit more aggressive. This is especially true when getting into the range of these red ones. They will actively seek to bump you off the road, and the safest way to pass them is to lure them into one of the far lanes and then swerve over onto the other side of the road. Otherwise, they'll block you any way that they can. Also, with the traffic, it introduces another danger for using a turbo boost: max speed crashes. If you smack into another car from the back, you'll spin out. You can safely swipe any traffic, but rear-ending is a no-go. Another nice addition to the game is the direction marker. Scrapping score from the last game, lap times and a new marker are shown on the HUD. Simply put, it shows what the road has coming up for you, whether it be a straightaway or a sharp turn. You can use this hint to figure out where you should place your car to maximize your speed. Another thing that returns is the distance gauge, used to determine how far away from the finish line you may be. I did find that it wasn't always entirely accurate, as when racing at Gettysburg, I finished the race with the bar still unlit. I don't know if that was a glitch or was legit inaccuracy, but either way, I felt I needed to mention it. Rad Racer 1 had some great music, and I feel that the sequel improved it. The only downside is that there are only 2 tracks now. The first music track is called Sing Yourself, which is exactly that. You should just sing your own music as you hear the engines of all the other cars on the screen. The other 2 tracks, however, are fantastically done, and sound amazing for the game. In fact, I had the feeling that these tracks would have felt at home in a Mega Man game on a beach level or something. I just wish there were more songs included. The graphics are, of course, fantastic. There's a real feel of speed at times, and the simulated hills are pleasant to encounter. Obstacles on the outsides of the tracks are minimal though, but they will always pose that unknown hazard. There aren't any continues by default if you fail, but the instruction manual does tell you how to do the hidden level select, which can be done at any time. It also hints at a secret option to do an alternate version of the track that you skip to. I was curious, so I checked it out. Holy crap, this is not cool. You literally see the enemy cars, your car, the HUD, and any crap on the sides of the tracks, and that's it. So if you needed a more difficult challenge in case the game wasn't hard enough, then here you go. Red Racer 2 is a game that feels like it added just enough to the game to make it feel like a true sequel. It may play identically to its older brother, but the directional marker, the new turbo start, and the more aggressive AI make it feel like an improved game, which is what a sequel like this should aim for. If you enjoyed the first game, there's no reason why you shouldn't play this. If you didn't care for it, however, you might want to pass. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.